Mhm. All right. Hello, this is Tiffany coming through live in effect here on my YouTube channel. So please make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, make sure you share the channel. Also, make sure you guys tune in. So today's or tonight's topic is going to be about Ivan Van Sertima. So Ivan Van Sertima was born on this day on January 26th of 1935 in Guyana. Okay, he was Guyanese, but he did write a lot about African history. Um, yeah, he wrote a lot about African history, particularly about blacks in America. And one of the books that he written was called "They Came Before Columbus," which happened to be considered as pseudo archaeology and pseudo because it didn't have enough consensus or had enough information to validate, and the information was outdated. But that was his most famous book that he written, which was called "They Came Before Columbus." So today we're going to look at his biography. Then we're going to look at some of the works that he have done over the years. Okay, he has written several books before he passed. All right. So here's the information, and I may play a video. Depends on how things go. So here's some information. So that's the picture of Ivan Van Sertima. Now, who was he? All right, so this is the introduction. His name is Ivan Gladstone Van Sertima. He was born on January the 26th, 1935, and he died May 25th, 2009. He was Guyanese, born British Associate Professor of Africana Studies at Rutgers University in the United States. He was best known for his Olmec alternative origin speculation, a brand of pre-Columbian contact theory, which he proposed in his book, They Came Before Columbus in 1976. While his Olmec theory has spread widely in African American community, both lay and scholarly. It was mostly ignored in a Meso-Americanist scholarship and dismissed as Afrocentric pseudo-archaeology and pseudo-history to the effect of robbing Native American cultures. So now, his story, his books is one of the reasons why people run wild and saying that they are indigenous to this land and they came here before the Europeans and the Africans did, because of the fact that he had written that book. But there's a lot of detail that goes into that book. But let's go ahead and continue. Okay. So now he was born in Kitty Village near Georgetown in what was then the colony of British Guyana, which is now in Guyana. He retained his British citizenship throughout his life. He completed primary and secondary school in Guyana and started writing poetry. He attended the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London from 1959. In addition to his creative writing, Van Sertima completed his undergraduate studies in African languages and literature at School of Oriental and African Studies in 1969, where he graduated with honors. From 1957 to 1959, worked as a press and broadcasting officer in the Guyana Information Services. During the 1960s, he worked for several years in Great Britain as a journalist, doing weekly broadcasts to the Caribbean and Africa. Van Sertima married Maria Nagy in 1964. They adopted two sons, Larry and Michael. All right, in the field work in Africa, he compiled a dictionary of Swahili legal terms in 1967. In 1970, Van Sertima immigrated to the United States, where he entered Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, for graduate work. After divorcing his wife, Sertima remarried in 1984 to Jacqueline L. Patton, who had two daughters. Now, let's talk about his most infamous work, They Came Before Columbus. He published his They Came Before Columbus in 1976 as a Rutgers graduate student. The book deals mostly with his argument for an African origin in Mesoamerican culture in the Western Hemisphere. Published by a random house rather than an academic press, They Came Before Columbus was a bestseller and achieved widespread attention within the African American community for his claims of prehistoric African content and diffusion of culture in Central and South America. It was generally ignored and dismissed by academic experts at the time and strongly criticized in detail in the academic journal Current Anthropology in 1997. So, his most popular work, They Came Before Columbus, was already critiqued and it was already vetted at that time. And it wasn't even accepted as being credible source. And according to that source of information on WikiOne, when he published his book, he didn't publish through an academic press. He published it through Random House. So it became a best-selling book. Because the academic community was not going to accept it. That's why. All right. So Van Sertima completed his master's degree at Rutgers in 1977. He became associate professor of African Studies at Rutgers in the Department of Africana Studies in 1979. Also in 1979, Van Sertima founded the Journal of African Civilization, which he exclusively edited and published for decades. He published several annual compilation volumes of the journal dealing with various topics of African history. His article, The Lost Sciences of Africa, an Overview, 1983, discusses early African advances in metallurgy, uh, astronomy, mathematics, architecture, engineering, and agriculture, navigation, medicine, and writing. He posited that higher learning in Africa, as elsewhere, was the preserve of elites in the centers of civilization, rendering them vulnerable in the event of the destruction of those centers and the loss of such knowledge. Van Sertima also discussed African scientific contribution in an essay for the volume African Renaissance, published in 1999. He had first published the essay in 1983. This was a record of the conference held in Johannesburg, South Africa in September 1998 on the theme of African Renaissance. And on July the 7th of 1987, Van Sertima testified before a United States Congressional Committee to oppose recognition of the 500th anniversary of Christopher Columbus' discovery of the Americas. He said, "You cannot really conceive of how insulting it is to the Native Americans to be told they were discovered." Okay, he has a point right there. Now, going into his work about his most infamous book, check it out. They Came Before Columbus, the African Presence in Ancient America, 1976. In this book, Ivan Van Sertima explored his theory that Africans made landfall and had significant influence on the native peoples of Mesoamerica, primarily the Olmec civilization. Van Sertima accomplishes this through chapters relying heavily on dramatic storytelling. This technique, as well as the ambiguity of the evidence Van Sertima used, have led to the acceptance of his work as pseudoscience or pseudo-house, and did not go through a peer review process. His work did not go through a peer review process. So it was published by Random House, which is not an academic publishing company. They can publish any type of book. They can publish fiction, regular novels, etc. So he didn't take it to that academic source. And as a matter of fact, it didn't go through the peer review process. So he got away with putting out the information as being factual without having it tested, having it examined, and and authorized, etc. But later on, there were people that read the book and they realized there was a lot of misinformation. Okay. There were those who was in the academic field that decided to take the initiative to look at it, and they realized this information is inaccurate. It's not factual. There's no consensus. There's no proof behind this. And you know what's so funny is that people will use the argument about the carved images they see in the Americas and compare them with those in Egypt, and try to make the argument that those images or the statues are the same ones that can be found in Egypt, which that is false. That is false and that is wrong. And it wasn't like black people. Well, there were black people that didn't know about African American history. So there were those who were very ignorant of that. But then there was those who didn't think that the information that was presented about blacks and slavery and whatnot was accurate. So they wanted to look for something that made them feel good. They wanted to find something that would make them feel like they were already here. So what I would call this is appealing to the emotions. And that's what he did. He appealed to the emotions of the masses, by making a feel-good rhetoric claim that wasn't true. And to this day, people still doing it. It's one thing to feel proud about yourself, but it's another thing when you put out pseudoscience or pseudo archaeology that does not validate the information. Simple as that. All right, so it says here, Van Sertima reached larger audience through chapters narrated by figures of the past, including Christopher Columbus and the Mali king Abu Bakr II. In doing this, primary source anecdotes are often the evidence cited by Van Sertima, combined with inference and exaggeration, though he implies to his reader that the narrative is based in facts. Chapter 5, called Among the Casazal Catals, if I'm saying it right, Van Sertima narrates the arrival of Abu Bakr the second to an Aztec civilization in Mexico in 1311, describing the Mali king as a true child of the sun, burnt dark by its rays, and in direct and explicit comparison to the Aztec sun god. As Van Sertima writes, this interaction is not rooted in historical evidence, and Van Sertima does not offer a cited source to back up his narrative. This is one of the many examples of Van Sertima's theories that Mesoamerican mythologies are based on pre-Columbian African contact theories. Now let's look at pre-Columbian African contact theories. What is that about? All right. Let's go down here. So, the claims of African and Middle Eastern contact. First of all, let's see, what is the pre-Columbian transoceanic contact theories? Well, it's speculated about possible visits to or interaction with the Americas, the indigenous people of the Americas, or both by people from Africa, Asia, Europe, or Oceania at a time prior to Christopher Columbus' first voyage to the Caribbean in 1492. During any part of the pre-Columbian era, such contact is accepted as having occurred in prehistory during the human migration that led to the original settlement of the Americas, perhaps by sea, but has been highly debated in the historic period. All right. So going down to the claims of African and Middle Eastern contact. It says claims involving African contact. Proposed claims for an African presence in Mesoamerica stem from attributes of the Olmec culture, the claimed transfer of African plants to the Americas, and the interpretation of European and Arabic historical accounts. All right. The Olmec culture existed from roughly 1200 BCE to 400 BCE. The idea that the Olmecs are related to Africans was suggested by Jose Melgar, who discovered the first Coliso head at Huiyapan, now Tres Zapotes, in 1862. More recently, Ivan Van Sertima speculated African influence on Mesoamerican culture in his book, They Came Before Columbus. Okay, his claims include the attribution of Mesoamerican pyramids, calendar technology, mummification, and mythology to the arrival of Africans by boat on current running from Western Africa to the Americas, heavily inspired by Leo Weiner. Van Sertima suggests that the Aztec god represented an African visitor. His conclusion have been severely criticized by mainstream academics and considered pseudo-archaeology. All right. Now let's go down to who is Leo Weiner. Leo Weiner, Africa and the Discovery of America, suggests similarity between Mandinka and the native Mesoamerican religious symbols, such as the wind, serpent, and the sun disk, and words that have Mende roots and share similar meanings across both cultures, such as Kor, Gawal, and Kubila in Arabic, or Kofila in Mandinka. All right. So basically, his claims, according to this information, was inspired by Leo Weiner. Okay. And so this happened to be part of the pre-Columbian transoceanic contact theories. All right. So it has not been proven to be a fact. It's just a theory. All right, so skipping down. So Van Sertima argued that African contact likely happened more than once. In chapter 4, Africans Across the Sea, Van Sertima explored numerous ways that he claimed Africans could have traveled by boat to South and Central America. Van Sertima writes about shipping technology, saying that even the most ancient of Egyptian ships were sturdily enough to cross the Atlantic on the currents that run from Northwest Africa to the Americas. All right. And then at the very bottom it says, Van Sertima states near the end of the book that all civilizations are capable of independent invention and that he aims to place his claims on the spectrum between diffusionism and isolationism, or the idea that cultures separated geographically are capable of inventing similar things without interaction between the two. However, some of the biggest resting points of his theory attribute Mesoamerican pyramid mummification, symbolism, mythology, calendar technology, and much of the art to African influence and guidance. Critics in anthropology and archaeology have stated that they came from Columbus portrays native Meso in the scientific fields of archaeology and anthropology. Now, here it is in Wiki One, it says it. Okay. I don't have to go any further with these paragraphs here because it's redundant. So basically, it's already proven in the article in the very beginning. So I can go ahead and skip that. Now look down where it says death and legacy. Van Sertima retired in 2006. He died on May 25th of 2009 at the age of 74. He was survived by his wife and 4 adult children. His widow, Jacqueline Van Sertima, said she will continue to publish the Journal of African Civilization. She also planned to publish a book of his poetry. So here's more information. Here's the bibliography. All right. Here are the reference at the bottom and the external link. All right, so I'm going to show the list of books that people can check out by Ivan Van Sertima if they choose to do so. All right, so this PDF here is Early America Revisit by Ivan Van Sertima. I know you can't really see it, but here it is. And this book was written in 1998. These are the table of contents. The Mandingo Voyage, physical and ritual evidence of Egyptian Nubian contact in the time of the Ramessides, if I'm saying that right. Egyptian contact with South America. Reply to my credits. Okay. So you can check this book out. It's called Early America Revisit. Also, here's another book by him, which is Black Women in Antiquity, edited by Ivan Van Sertima. All right. Which was written in 1984, but was published in 1988 and published again in 2007. So that's that book. Okay. This one's called Egypt Revisit by Ivan Van Sertima. All right. So here are the table of contents. And it was published under the Journal of African Civilization. Okay. Here it is. So if you guys want to check that out, you can check it out as well. That's the cover. That's the book cover right there. Now here's this book, which he also written, which was called The Golden Age of the Moor. Okay. The table of content, once again, was published by the Journal of African Civilization. All right. People can check it out if they want to. They're more than welcome to check this out. And it's on PDF. You can find it on Amazon. There you go. And then here's another one, last but not least. The most popular book, which is called They Came Before Columbus. All right. The African Presence in Ancient America. Oops. All right. So you can check this book out. All right, so that's all I have, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Share the video, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, please take it easy and please be safe, and I'll reconnect with you guys later. Peace and power elevation be to all of you. This is Tiffany, and I'm out. All right.